Coding Challenge Expert, 26th of November. Question number 1 is divisible by previous digit. So we got a float number and we want to see if the integer part of the float number is divisible by its previous digit. And I believe that, well, I don't remember what happened with the first one. We'll figure out in a minute because Gin is going to propose a solution for this problem. Thank you, Gin.
Thank you. Okay, so first of all, we need to pass an argument to the function, which will be a number. So that's good. Okay, so the way I'm looking at the problem is because we have to divide the first digit by the last one. So first of all, I'll get the last digit. So I'll do let last, let's say. So because we have a number, we need to basically convert it to array, and we have to do it free string. So we put toString method, and then we need to split it. Split it, reverse it, because we want to get the last one. This is how I solve it. I'll do this. And then I put 0, so it will give us the last number. And I'll just double check. Yeah, that's fine. Yep. So it gives the last number. Sorry?
Yeah.
Okay.
Given us the last decimal number, but it doesn't say in the question.
question.
Yeah. So I'm just
Okay,
checking. I'm just checking. Yeah, at the moment. So now I want to get the. Actually, I want to get the number I'm working with, which will be my number. Maybe not array num. So I'll take the whole number. Basically, I'll do the same. toString and split it. I need to use this thing. Okay, so I want to split it to two parts, to this one and this one. So I get two arrays now, and I want to use the first one. So I do this. Is that fine? So I have this in my array number is this first integer, basically. So now I want to get to change this to array. How should I call it? Can I just double check what I the num just to see? Yep. Okay. So now I basically want to create an empty array, which will be my result. Result should be empty. And I will start filling this array by dividing my first number by the last one. So I will do result push. So I need to do number 0. I'll use modulus. And I check if it's 0. If it is, I push true. If it is not, I push false. The line is a bit long. I'll check what's my result. Okay, so false, false, true, false. So I guess the first element of array is fine. Now I will iterate through the rest of my array using for loop. And I will start from the second element because we already put the first one. We already worked with the first one of the number. So I will start from 1, not 0. And then I do div num length. Okay. And now number -1. So I will do if my element at I position, if I divide it by, well, basically, if I use modulus, if I divided by the previous one, if it's equal to 0, I'll do result push true, and else I'll push false. I'll just check. Oh, that's fine.
Good. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Well, there's like some things we can improve.
Yeah, I like to do some changes in your code. But
yeah.
It's really good as a starting point. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Right, so just a couple of things based on what Gin did. I think this is a perfectly valid solution. Just a few things. For example, look, Gin, this if-else, this could be massively simplified. Why don't you do that? Look. That's it. One line, right? So you do result.push whatever this returns. Right?
I've got that in my code.
And same thing here. Look, that works, but look at this. So you don't need, you get a penalty here, right? On the right hand side. We agree on that. But that's unnecessary because that will return true or false already. So just get rid of that. Like that. Right? Easier. And then something you can also, this is not like a big optimization, but for example, Here, you convert the number to a string, then you split it, and then you get the first part. So does anyone know a different way to get the integer part of a decimal number? We can floor it, correct. We can do let array num equals math.floor, because we don't want to round anything, right? We just want to strip the decimals. And then we pass the number, I believe. And then that's fine, right? You can convert it to string if you want. Yeah. Will this work? Yep. Okay. Based on that, I would like to offer you a different solution, right? So again, don't get me wrong, this is valid. This is absolutely fine, right? But to me, the only concern I have is too long. It's too long, right? The longer the solution is, first of all, it will be harder to read, and also the chances to fail are higher, right? Because you have to type more. It's as simple as that. So I would like to offer you an alternative using reduce. So I think that pretty much on every single training on Expert, you are expected to use reduce or something similar, right? So my proposal is, look, I'm going to do everything in one go. Return math.floor number, which is what we've done. And then I'm going to convert it to a string, and then I'll have an array, because I have an array and I want to return another array of similar size. Well, I said reduce, but actually I'm thinking, even though reduce will be absolutely valid, but probably can even use map, right? Because I will have an array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements, and I'll return an array of 5 elements. So I can use map, whatever. And finally, I don't want to join. I think that's it, right? Yeah, well, I forgot, sorry, to split it, right? Right. So now, the only thing I need to do is be able to create a map function that for each digit, it tells you if it's divisible by the previous one or not. So, arguments here, you tell me. Digit, I'm going to call it string digit, to remember that this is a string. Index. Array, correct. We'll need the array. We'll see in a minute why. So then, if I return false, statically, I will have an array of 5 falses. Hopefully, let's try that. Correct. You see? False, 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 false. Okay, fine. But at least the strategy thing we work. Because now the only thing we need to do is to figure out how to divide one number, how to get the modulus of one number, right? So I want to return, first of all, let's remember to convert to a number. Or no, sorry, before that, let's check the index. So if index is 0, right, we need to check the first element against the last one. If it's not 0, we need to check against the previous one. Because we'll have to convert to numbers several times. I'm going to create a new function called isDivisible string digit 1 string digit 2, and that function will simply return number string digit 1 is divisible by number string digit 2. I'm just creating a utility function, right? Because we'll have to do that several times. So then I will return, if index is 0, then I want to compare is divisible of 0 against what? You sure?
I mean,
String digit is just a string, right?
yeah.
7, 3, blah, 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 blah.
Array dot. No, it's
How can I get the last element of the array?
array dot length.
Correct. Correct. All right. However, if it's not the first digit, How do we compare that? Actually, this is wrong, right? This is not a string digit 0. This is just string digit. And then what here? String digit again. We want to divide the current digit with the previous one. How do we get the previous digit? -1 what? Eugene? Like that? Yep. Correct. That may work. Maybe. Right? So let's recap. So string, we got a digit, first of all, 7 is a string, index 0, array, the 5 elements with the 5 strings. So if index is 0, if it's the first element, that whatever this returns, true or false, right? So we're getting the modulus. Actually, this is wrong, right? It's divisible. Why this is wrong? The is divisible function is wrong. Correct. We want to return a Boolean, right? So it will be divisible if this is equal to what? 0. Correct. Correct. Right? That looks better. So this is why it's good to review what you've done before submitting to avoid penalties on the accuracy score. So it's divisible, current number against the last number, correct? And if it's not the first number, then divided by the previous one. Any concern about that? It works, right? Very quickly, so let's see what you did here. So Victor, he did something similar to Gin with the for loop, right? Again, this if-else is completely unnecessary, right, Victor? You can simply do array.push and put that inside, right? Cool. Apart from that, looking good. Gray is shorter, so let's see what Gray did. Well, not necessarily shorter. So it's longer, yeah. So he's pushing string math flow, blah blah. So he's doing the same thing, and then he's dividing next one, and then he leaves the first one to the end, and then he unshift and he puts the first one at the beginning of the on top of the array. Yeah, I mean, fine. Eugene, he's using reduce. Yeah. Yeah. That's a bit hacky, right?
Yeah, well, the guarantees
Right. Osman, up until so far is the only one using map, right? So to me, map is the natural method here, because you have an array, you want to return another array of the same size, so it's as simple as that. So this solution is probably even shorter than mine. So he's doing pretty much the same thing. Oh, right, so that's interesting. That's interesting. I like that. I really like that. That's better than what I did. So instead of having this kind of very long if-else here, so first of all, because the first digit is the same one all the time, right? So first of all, he calculates what the first digit is, and based on that, he just checks the modulus once, right? So he gets the second digit once, depending on the index, and then he just do the same thing, right? Yeah, I like that. I like that. Of course, he got another penalty with the spaces, but apart from that, I think his solution is very elegant. Right, and I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it in that question. And then question number 2, I would like to invite our friend Eugene, that is going to explain us how to use the get max value. So get max value means, let's see the details. So we have an object, we have a nested object, and we want to find which is the highest value, the maximum value within that nested object.
Okay. So to start with finding an object as the parameter, as we've only got one object.
We hear nothing, right?
Huh?
Speak louder.
Oh, yeah. So start off with defining a variable object that's literally this object, take an n. Then we're going to, what do we need to do? I can't even remember. Return. Okay. We're going to do something with object and going to, I don't know if we can reduce it. No, okay, I remember. We're going to get all the values of the object. So let object values equal object dot oh no, values, yes. And this will return an array of values. So correspondingly, we should have something like 2, and then C1, D4. So we've got another object internally that we need to deal with. But now we're dealing with an array. So with this array, I feel like this might be the return value. We can iterate through it. And let's call this, what's another name? Array value. Can't think of another name. Array value, and what we're gonna do. Oh yes, we do. That's what we need. Yes, we do. And actually, with that in mind, so we need an accumulator, and we need whatever we're pointing towards. Thanks. No, forgot my syntax of reduce already. Return. So what we're going to do with this array is, so it's going to take a condition. Actually, it's going to have more than this. So we're checking whether we're taking the current value or we're passing it as an object. So let's check if current value equals, oh wait, what's the check? Type of current value equals object. If this is the case, we want to call getMaxValues again. So we're recursively calling our original function here, and we're gonna do exactly what we did, what's defined in here. So we also need to check whether it's just a value. So this it's like a loop, can find a kind of end. Value equals object get max. Okay, so else val. Okay, let me think. Right, we're not using the accumulator, so I need to think of a way to use my accumulator.
the default value of the accumulator?
I haven't got one. And I haven't even finished this. Else. Default value would be 0.
Correct. Can you put it?
Okay.
Actually, can you rename accumulator by something a bit more
Or
expressive? Can you call it max, for example?
okay. No, I couldn't think of a name. Okay. let's turn this on. Okay, what to do with the thing? So this is all returning something. Okay. So this will, So I still need to calculate the, within here, I still need to work out whether it's the max. So if it's a value,
So what's the problem with doing exercise?
We're not using the accumulator or
Correct.
calculator.
He's ignoring everything, right? He's just looping, returning,
I don't know what to do with
but
this.
he doesn't care if its value is the maximum or not, right? He's not comparing anything anyway.
Okay.
But we've at least got the values out of the object if we needed them.
Yep. So if it's an object, curve value.
Compare your current value to your accumulator or your max.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay. So
Maybe not within there. That bit's fine, right?
yeah, I'm just thinking I'm gonna take this out to out here.
After you're out, you can do your work.
Within the else.
No, outside the else. So if you had a value, you've returned that value. If not, you've looped through your object and you've got the value anyway. So for each iteration, you've got a value. So you just need
Yep.
to compare it to your
So curve value, if it is greater than our current max, which is 0, return. So yeah, we're questioning this, and if we want, if current value is greater than max, we want the current value. Else we return the current max, which currently is 0, but by iterating through with the reduced, so we actually want to return this.
Does the reduce assign get max value of curve value to max like that with return? No.
So the line that the Eugene just wrote will be absolutely ignored.
Yeah, yeah.
Why?
Okay.
It will never be executed. If
Because
we have a
we've-
break on here, this line will never run.
Is it the returns of the previous ones?
Out of curiosity, why don't you? I like the idea. I think this study is correct.
Yep.
But the problem is now. The problem is if else you do nothing, right? So if okay, fine, you go deep again.
Yep.
You enter the matrix, but eventually you never assign the result of invoking this function again, right?
Okay.
So why don't you? I don't know. I mean, there are a few ways to do that.
Yep.
Why don't you create like a new variable called, I don't know, candidate max or new value or something like that, that will be either if or else. Even using the ternary operator if you want.
And what scope is this this variable?
So because you need to capture.
Within
If it's an
within.
integer, that's
Mhm.
fine. You got the integer here. But if it's if you have to recursively call the get max value,
Yeah.
you are not capturing what the get max value variable is returning.
Okay. Is maximum number. Okay. No, not that. What am I doing? Okay.
So I think what
So if it is,
what Ricardo's saying is that get max value,
yeah.
current value, you have to assign it to something to compare it.
Yeah, of course. That's it.
Because right now you just loop again,
Mhm.
but the result of that isn't assigned to anything, so you just can't use it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So my immediate impression is to assign it within my if and else conditions.
Yeah, do it. Let's do it. We'll improve that in a minute. But yeah, so at least now you got the is max number.
Yeah.
So you can compare not against max, but against that one, right? Sorry. So you got the max. So the max is the current max. But now
Yep.
you got the candidate.
Yep.
So you have to compare max not against current value,
Hmm.
but against is max number.
Yep.
Because is max number will, if it's greater than max, it will become the new max on the next iteration.
Hmm. And then it will call it again, and then because of the inner object, right? Can I just run out?
You can, but it won't work.
Damn. Oh, okay.
So why you have that variable? You're ignoring it again, right? Is max
Yeah,
number.
yeah,
You
yeah.
need to do something with that variable here in the last return statement.
Instead of max. 'Cause Max,
Instead of
max,
max
isn't.
Yeah.
Oh wait, it's in the reducer.
So what's max assigned to?
The accumulator.
0. the first
Oh right,
iteration,
yeah.
And then whatever you return on
Yeah.
each iteration.
So within here, I need to.
You need to compare max
Mhm.
against that value, right? That's why you were creating a new variable. Because you want to see if the current value is greater than the max.
Yeah, so it's doing it here.
Correct. No, but that's
Just-
wrong.
Just
That's
Okay.
wrong. The first part is wrong. It would be right if it's a number. But if it's an object,
Okay. Is max number is greater than our current max.
so if it's greater than max, what do you want to return as the new max for the next iteration?
Is max number.
Correct? Correct? Yeah, I agree on that.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Otherwise, return the max.
You keep the current one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That should work, right?
Maybe.
I'm gonna. Yeah.
That's why.
I'm gonna.
Thank you. Alright, let's recap a bit. This exercise is super important, right? If you don't understand it, you should do the expert training on recursion. So yes, first of all, I like to simplify this a bit. I'm going to respect what Eugene did because I think it's really good. My only concern is, let's use a ternary operator, right? So is max number equals, then this, else, whoa, that was exotic. Right, so we got that. First of all, will this work? Yes, it's still working. I think is max number is a bad name, right? Because is max number, it looks like it's a boolean, true or false. Do you think any? Say it again. Candidate or candidate number, something like that, right? So what are we saying here? We can put that in line again, I believe. Yeah. Will this work? Yes. So on the first iteration number 1, or number 0 to be more precise. So in this line, I stop here, right? So in that line, value of max 0. Value of current value,
First element of DRS.
2. Correct. Value of candidate,
And a sign.
well, yes, undefined, definitely. So let's move the breakpoint here. Value of candidate, 2 as well. Anyone apart from gray?
Yeah, two.
2. Why 2, Victor?
Because candidate is equal to, it says if curval is an object,
Yeah.
which curval is 2, so it's non-object. So it says if it is an object, go through the function again, and if it isn't, then just return curval.
That's correct. That's correct. That's exactly it. And then iteration, I'll call it 1 again, otherwise it could be a bit more confusing. Iteration number 2. What's the value of max? 2. Why 2, Tom? Correct. What's the value of curval? Current val?
Is the object C1D4.
Correct. So then, what happened with the candidate?
That is equal to 4.
It will be 4. Definitely will be 4 at some point. But we don't know yet.
What do you mean?
We don't know yet because current value is an object.
It hasn't gone through the loop yet.
Correct. So we'll go through the loop again. So, iteration number 3. What's max?
Is this iteration number 1 inside the get max value? As in the
Mm-hmm.
other dimension.
In another
This is another dimension, correct. So this is dimension 1. And actually now, this is dimension 2. So in reality, this is iteration number 1 of dimension 2.
Iteration 0.
Or, yeah, anyway. Maxim, what's the max? On the first iteration of the dimension 2.
0.
Correct. What's the current value?
1.
Correct. And what's the candidate? Say it again? 4. Wrong. Why 4? We're still on the first iteration, so we're here.
Yeah, 1
Candidate is 1, right? Because 1
is not an object.
is not an object, so it will just keep it. So what will it return on, still on dimension 2, iteration number 2, maximum? What's the max now?
1.
Correct. What's the current value? 4, correct. So what's the candidate? 4, correct. So what happened on iteration number 3 on dimension 2? It doesn't exist, correct. It runs twice, so this doesn't happen. So that means so what is after iteration number 2 the maximum? What's the value that is getting returned? 4. Correct, correct. So we'll go back to the previous dimension here, right? And in this dimension, what this function is returning from the new dimension is 4. Correct. Correct. So then, is there anything else? Is there any other iteration on the first dimension?
Candidate is greater than max. Then, oh no, there isn't.
There isn't. There are just 2 iterations on the first dimension. So what is the first dimension eventually returning with this data? Why 4?
because it's greater than the.
Correct, because it's greater than 2. So because we are done with the loop, the function will return 4. Does it make sense? Do you want to do the next one? The one at the bottom?
Can you,
Okay, let's do it. even if it's the last thing we are reviewing today. This is vital. So, dimension 1, right? Iteration 1. So, what's max? 0. Cool. What's current value?
Object.
An object. Of what?
B and C.
B minus 3, C, 2, E, 8. We agree on that? Correct. So, what's candidate? Question mark. We don't know yet because the value is an object. So what's next? Correct. Dimension 2. What's the value? Iteration 1. What's the max? Correct. What's the current value? Minus 3. Correct. What's the candidate? Correct. Is there any iteration 2 here?
Yeah.
Yes. Correct. What's the max?
0.
Wrong. It's 0. Why 0? Correct. Correct. By the first time ever, the candidate minus 3 is not greater than 0. So we keep 0, which technically speaking is wrong, by the way. So 0 may be a bad initial value. Because what happens if all the values are negative?
Oh, yeah. You won't return the max value, return 0.
Correct. 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 If all the values are negative, yeah, so that wouldn't work. It wouldn't be that simple. We may do a training just to explain how to handle that. But hey, for now, we got lucky because we got some positive numbers, so it will work. But for now, still max is 0, which is wrong because we don't even have 0 in this list. But anyway, max is 0. What's the current value? Object of what? Correct. D2, E8, right? Correct. So what's the candidate? Question mark. We don't know. What that means, we don't know.
Dimension 3.
Dimension 3. Exactly. We're going very deep, right? Dimension 3. So iteration 1. What's max? Correct. What's the current value?
2.
Correct. What's the candidate? Correct. Is there any iteration 2? Correct. What's the max? Correct. What's the current value? 8. Right. What's the candidate? Correct. So what's in here now? 8. Correct. So we went back to iteration number 2, right? Is there any iteration number 3 on the second dimension? No. So then the second dimension will return what? 8. Correct. Candidate 8. Is there any iteration
Yeah.
number
2.
2 here?
Yeah.
Correct? So you tell me, what's the max now?
8.
Correct. What's the current value?
5.
Correct. So what's the candidate?
5.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we haven't
fine.
evaluated yet.
Yep, that's 5. Correct. So is there any iteration number 3 on the first dimension?
No.
No. Correct. So we're done. So eventually, what will this iteration return? Why 8? Correct. On the last iteration, candidate is 5, but 5, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, no one cares, right? 5 is not greater than 8, so it will just return whatever it was it had before, right? 8, because 8 is greater than 5. Any question? I know this could be complicated. I never said that was going to be easy, but you have no excuses to do that, right? Because this clearly helps to understand how it works, right? creating dimensions. Dimension 1, iteration 1, dimension 1, iteration 2. Then we go to dimension 2, blah, 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 blah. Right? And also DevTools clearly helps as well, adding breakpoints, all these things, right? The good thing about recursion is hopefully once you got the idea, every question is pretty much the same thing. Right, so I'm going to skip this one because this is super controversial. And I need, as I said, this is about lexical this, and no one has done it. And it's my fault, first of all, because I give you the option to make it wrong. And obviously you didn't miss the opportunity, right, to get some extra points.
I just couldn't. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I'll postpone this question, and because I need at least 1 hour to explain that. So I'll skip that one. And right. So why it doesn't work? Let me see what you did in why it doesn't work. So why it doesn't, is that one? Exists number in object? Yeah, that one, right? So yeah.
I kind of half rewrote the answer. I didn't really fix it, or I did, but not properly.
Yeah, so I'll let you know. So the main problem here, so this is a real exercise. So someone did the proposed answer on one of the coding challenge we did in the summertime. So the problem is he wants to, it's recursion again, right? We go through the list of values on the array. So we want to see if a given number, for example, number 4, exists in that object, right? So because number 4 is here, yeah, so it should return true. With number 7 is not listed here, so it should return false, right? So the question is very easy to understand. Other thing is how to solve it, but at least functionally speaking, it's obvious what business wants to do here. So the main problem this guy had was, look, he was returning things too quickly. So if we run the example, the problem is, look, even in that particular case, right, he's literally returning false all the time. Why? Because regardless of what happened here, he's just returning. Because you return something, that's it, right? So this will run just once. So after the first iteration, he will give up, right? So this will work just in 2 scenarios. Either if we are expecting to return false and the number is not the first one, or if we're expecting to return true and the number is the first one, right? But in that case, this is wrong. We cannot return. We need to at least wait until we find the number. If we find the number, it's okay to give up because we don't care about what happened next. But at least we need to wait, right? So there are multiple ways to solve that. I'll show you an easy one probably. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable exists equals false. So by default, the number doesn't exist, right? And now, so let me comment that for now. Eventually, I will return exists, right? So then, it's okay to loop over the array, but the thing is, I want to loop if it doesn't exist. If I found it, I don't care, right? So if I didn't found the number, right? So first of all, here I can say exists will be true if the current value is the same as the number we're looking for. And the same thing here on recursion, right? So we try to find if it exists. So on the next iteration, if we found the number, we don't care. We ignore the rest of the loop, right? In this case, it works. We can simplify this a bit. For example, have you ever seen break?
Yeah.
So break applies on for loops. I know Victor loves for loops, right? So what we can do, because still we are looping through the entire array, the only difference is If we found it, for example, after 4, we'll just do nothing. It will never run this code again, right? So what we could do is we could move everything to the left again, and then after each iteration, if now it exists, then break, right? Stop. Stop. And that still works, right? And obviously we can use the ternary operator, right? So we can do exists equals blah, 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 whatever he did here, then that, else, whatever, right? And probably will avoid getting a penalty. Something like that, right? Does it make sense? I mean, again, if I had to create that example from scratch, I couldn't use the for loop. I think it's a bit more complicated. I will use reduce. So recursion works perfectly with reduce. You don't need to use a for loop. But anyway, hey, if you want to, that's absolutely fine. I'm not against that. Cool. And then last question. This was arguably the easiest question on the challenge. So how many passengers? What's that, Victor?
That's an extra function at the bottom to find the total.
Right, right. Look at what do you think about Gray's solution?
It's amazing.
Right, it's way easier, right? I mean, and even Osman, right? I really like how the way Osman thinks. He's, you know, he's using reduce a lot, and I think we should all use reduce. Also, Jean trying to do reduce as well. Right, so we got 5 minutes, maybe 6-7 minutes. So let's do it. This is an easy one, right? So functionally speaking, how many passengers we got at the beginning, right? So if this is the final number of passengers on the bus, and this is what happened before the last stop, right? So we can easily find how many passengers we had at the beginning. So the number of passengers will be final plus out minus in. Right? In other words, if we just had one stop, just think that we have one stop, right? If at the end we got 7 passengers, but on the only stop we have 4 passengers left the bus, how many passengers we have at the beginning? 11, right? Of course. So that's the same thing all the time, right? This is just about thinking a bit how to loop over the array of objects. This is, as I said, it's probably the easiest question on the entire expert program. So let's create it quickly. So function initial bus passengers. So arguments, guys. Passengers. Can call stops. And then final, right? Something like that. So let's use reduce. So because we already have an array, so we can do stops dot reduce. So this is the accumulator. We know that because I want to return the initial bus passengers. I'm going to call it initial directly. So it will be more obvious that this is what the function is returning. And then stop. I like that. Again. So what's the default value of the initial, of the accumulator? It's the final, correct. In reality, it's number final, right? Because that's a string. So then, we want to return what? Initial plus number stop dot out. And then what else? Correct. Minus number what? Correct. Wrong. Why? Because I forgot to close the parentheses. Right. That's still wrong. Why? Because we are not returning the reduce statement, right? Wrong. Why wrong? Because you see, I mean, look, I'll tell you something. That's a typical exercise that in reality is very easy. It's very easy, but it's about paying attention to details, and this is where you get the penalties on the accuracy, right? We have to transform the solution to a string, right? So we can do that. Will this work? Correct. Right? As you can see, you don't have to type that much. Right, Victor? Right, so
Wrong question.
wrong oh yeah, sorry about that. Well, even worse, mate. It's even worse. Right? So
I didn't go through each array one by one. I did both of them up into two.
But all these things are a consequence of not using reduce. If you don't use reduce, if you use a for loop, everything becomes more complicated.
No, I could have done it with before. It's just what I did is different to what everybody else did. I created an array for each in and out.
Yep.
And then I summed them, and then
Yep.
I done the.
Yeah.
But it could have been done like that.
I appreciate that. But look how simple it is.
Yeah, no.
We just want to loop on the array and then keep adding each individual bit. Yeah, as simple as that. Right. So and then as I said, so I mean, in reality, Gray did the similar thing, ignoring the huge penalty. You know that maybe you lost a challenge because of this penalty. That's unnecessary, right? So maybe you've lost, I don't know, maybe half a point or even more just because of this huge, very long line. Right? So don't do that. Right?
Cheers, man.
But apart from that, so the idea is correct, right? It's literally the same thing. So he just get a variable and he increments the value of the variable, and eventually he converts to string, which is pretty much the same thing that Osman did, the same thing I did, as you see here. So my only concern, so I just have one concern about what Osman did. Can anyone see what is my concern here? Correct? Say it again? Okay, yeah, fine. I wasn't thinking about that, but I agree with you, Marta. The accumulator, the semantics are not great. The second argument is called initial. That's okay, I agree. That's another problem. I didn't notice that neither. The second argument is called initial. It's not initial. That's end, final, whatever. It's not. Right? We want to get the initial, no, but it's still something else. Say it again. Return the second return. What's wrong here? No, that's correct. You can see the question on top. I mean, don't get me wrong, it works, and it works fine, and I like it. But something is not very strict here. Look at this stop object. What's wrong in this line? One extra point on the board challenge. One and a half?
Or give a negative number.
No. It's not a number. I like that. Who said that? Marta. Wow, so can you explain that? Correct. Look, on the first iteration, what type of data the accumulator is? A number. But what type of data stop.in is? It's a string. Correct. And what type of data stop.out is? It's a string. So we are comparing, or we are playing with numbers and a string all together, right? Don't get me wrong. Modern JavaScript handles that. That's why it works. But to me, this is a bit dirty. So it's better to convert to numbers first, right? Because at least you're proving your intentions. Because the thing is, this is wrong. If he accepts playing with strings, why is he converting the accumulator, the default value, to a number, right? If you trash strings, leave everything as a string, right? Because of that, I personally think that it's better to just, if you want to play with numbers, just convert everything to a number, right? So for example, Gray was consistent, number, number, number everywhere. Victor was also consistent, number, 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 right? Cool, that's pretty much it. So any question, guys? No? Cool, thank you for watching.